We got ratings news. We got draft news. We got week 7 previews. All that and more on episode 85 of the UFL podcast.
1, 2, 3.
Back, everybody, to another amazing edition of the UFL podcast. I'm the ref representing Pro Football Newsroom, the leaders in spring football news, and boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, do we got a big week for you. But before we get started, I'm joined, as always, by my man, Zach Kallman. How you doing today, my friend?
Oh, it's another great day of UFL coverage and another great episode of the UFL podcast with our 85th episode now in tow. 85 still. It's kind of hard to believe we are crawling our way up almost to the century mark, closer and closer every single week. But I'm feeling great because, my Panthers here. We'll talk later. We might clinch this week. The USFL conference might be finalized by the end of the weekend if certain things go right. And I'll even punch it into you. Refs Law might save me this week.
Well, I mean, we'll see. Well, or it could doom you. Or it could doom you. We'll see. Refs Law giveth them. Refs Law taketh away. But before we get into that, I mean, we got a couple things that we want you to do. Social media, what the hell are you doing at UFL Podcast? Make sure you're following us over on Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagrams, X, whatever you want to call these things. We're over there. Make sure you're following us. Make sure you're following at PF Newsroom, at UFL Newsroom. God, there's too many of these acronyms going around. Make sure you're following us. Hey, if you're watching the video, here's what you can do as well. Make sure you subscribe. Click the bell. It builds morale. And here's something that's free. Like the video, or dislike the video. It's free. It costs you nothing, but it goes a long way for us. Hey, you like merch? We got merch. Head over to Breaking Tea, breakingtea.com/USFL Newsroom. USFL Newsroom. I didn't mistake. It's just an old code, but you will get 10% off, and they have USFL merch. They have XFL merch, and they do indeed have UFL merch. And since we're talking about merch, hey, you know who's a legend? My man, Ducky. And you could be a ducking legend, too. Head over to the link down in the description below because we have merch, and all of the proceeds are going to Feeding America. And that's not a joke. That's the name of the charity. Last year, what did we do? We gave over 1,000 meals to families in need, and this year we're hoping to do the same. So every purchase right down below, go get it. And I still got to get mine, Zach, but I did see we have a community legend here in Houston. Brett Zaleski signed up. He said, hey, am I doing this right? And I think you are, buddy. I think you are. Sign him up. Shucky, ducky, quack, quack. Go get your merch and get it while it's hot because it is limited time only. We're stopping it at the end of the season. We did it last year. People were like, I wanted it.
Let's beat that number too.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can keep stacking this thing up year over year. So yeah, great stuff. I am going to be picking mine up this week. So definitely grabbing the sweatshirt. Just, hey, regular Joe here. Paycheck's got to drop tonight. That's all I got to do. Once that drops, Ducky merch is coming to town. I'm going to be having it over in Arizona, repping the logo. I already do with the cards. I just got to rep now the gear.
And here's what I want you guys to do. If you did buy any of the merch, or if you're going to, once you get it, take a picture of it, post it on social media, tag Ducky, tag us. We'll give you a retweet, a re-X. I don't know what they call it. An X post. What do they even call it now? Sharing.
I'm just going to roll with a retweet. Hey, it's still Twitter to me.
I like re-X. We'll re-X it for you. We'll
repackage.
Yeah. Anyway, big news, big week, big ratings, Zach. My God. Generally speaking, that's the big fear when you do any of these spring leagues. It's like the first week, they always come hot and heavy. People will always talk about 2001 with the original XFL. They broke records with that game, and it was only a few weeks later that it was in territory not seen before. Now, maybe seen now. The landscape of TV has changed quite a bit. But back in those days, I think there was quite a shock in the difference. We saw it with the AF. We saw it with the XFL. We saw it with every one of these leagues, the steep drop-off. And we did see a little bit of a drop-off this year, but not nearly as drastic as what we've seen. And in fact, we're starting to see numbers come back up after the midseason. So
always a plus.
Maybe, not much of a midseason slump, but you're getting the consistency. Your base is sticking around. Even at a point when, as we'll talk about later, playoffs are clinching out, right? And we'll see what the end of the season looks like. But so far, so good. I'm pleasantly surprised and happy with what we've seen so far.
I'm so used to not seeing numbers that are close to 1 million during this time of the year. We just kind of assume it hovers or sticks around, kind of like we've seen in recent years, like that 500 to 700 range. Mm-hmm. But like now, the merger it's paying off in TV end exactly like both Disney and Fox believed it was going to be. And we're now seeing consistently 800 seems like, at least on broadcast TV, kind of like the low benchmark anymore. Mm-hmm. Now you're hitting regulars. Like last week, we had 3 games hit 900K plus, and a few of them that kind of tickled that 1 million area. Hell, 3 of the games peaked 1 million plus viewers at one point during their live stream. And we had one game on Fox hit an average of 1.2. That's the thing, an average of 1.2 million people across the entire broadcast. That is fantastic news heading into week 7. And it makes me intrigued to see what happens with the marquee matchup this week that has been hyped up on the league's end. And by the way, biggest peak of the weekend, Michigan-Arlington at 1.5 million between 4 and 4:15 p.m. Eastern time. You can take a guess as to probably why it peaked at that area in time, but that's a good thing. Great football, great moments, and like when you see people engaging on social, they're saying, "Oh my goodness, look, it's coming down to the wire." Like that gets people kind of going, "Oh, this football's. Let's check it out." And sure enough, people are tuning in. Numbers are up from last year, as we've stated. You've seen both these leagues; they're up from last year. It's keeps staying consistently high.
I wasn't here Monday, but damn, dude, that ref's law is no joke, Zach. Dude, the Arlington Renegades fans out there got to be like, ref's law, you son of a gun.
No, it's real
how?
now.
My God. Zach, I said it as a joke last year, and I looked 90% accurate on the season. Only one game failed last year. This year, we got one game. It was early in the season. We'll see. We're at 83.3% repeating on the season of ref's law.
How you do it. I don't know how you do it, man.
How is that even possible, Zach, that in 2 seasons of football, listen to me, in 2 seasons of football, there's only been 2 games where the Panthers and the Houston team didn't have the opposite outcome. How is that? I guess it's not 2 seasons, but a season and a half solid.
I wish I could tell you. I don't understand how you keep landing. I guess it's because they play, differing opponents week over week, but I can't even say that because Houston we talked last year with the Gamblers, swung wildly one direction in being good to start the year after taking a loss to Michigan week 1 and then completely swings back. Michigan the opposite. So maybe it's just that. I don't know how you're landing it, but right now, I will say, was it like 83% right now after this week?
83.3 repeating percent.
Yeah, that's whatever. It works. I'm hoping ref's law falls into favor for me this week is all I can say. But it's kind of crazy how that works out. It really is.
Well, so think about this, Zach. So there's still a game between the Panthers and Houston left.
Yep.
So that's one more game. So there's only 2 games? 7, 8, 9. Okay, so 3 games.
Yeah, 3.
Left
yeah.
That could impact that.
Yeah.
That's kind of
like
crazy.
You're guaranteed 1 week still, but
see.
It's wild how the trend continues.
That might have to be a shirt. A year after year, ref's law.
The fact that there isn't one on our merch shop, I'm kind of surprised. Is all I can tell you. So.
Well, we might have to get there.
It's coming. There's enough evidence now. Last few years, tell you what. When we speak of just kind of a phenomenon, and ratings wise, because again, I do think I love that end point of that game. Refs law helps affect ratings in a way. 1.5 million peak, but ratings also surprisingly got one of our favorite sites to actually mention something about the league and. What I would say grind their teeth at even mentioning this in their way they did. Pro Football Talk came out of the woodwork and even made a positive spring football article for the first time in God knows how long and said UFL settles in with solid ratings. I'll take that as a win because PFT is one of the easiest ratings article farms out there. And the fact that that Mike Florio himself, because again, Mike's on this one, had to sit there and probably go, I can't dodge this one, and puts down the quickest good ratings article I have ever seen in my life of barely 2 paragraphs worth of text. I'll take it as a win. Okay.
I'll take it as well, Zach. I mean, we know we've joked about this going back to the days of AAF. We joked about it when the USFL was on NBC because there was sometimes Florio was like, oh, this new thing's coming. It's on NBC. It could be good. And you're like, whoa, okay. Well, that wasn't full negative. Florio's, I guess that's a nice step in the right direction. It's nice to see it. You know what? Maybe. See, here's the thing. That's kind of like the barometer here, the indicator. If next year he's like, well, you know what? I watched a game and it was fun. Whew, if we can win over Florio, the world's the limit, right? Anything could happen in spring football.
Open up the Pandora's box, Mike. Join us.
Yeah,
be
come on
crazy.
Over.
You won't regret it, man. You won't regret it.
No, we'll get him on Spring Stock 4.
You see, yeah, the seal has been broken. He's wrote a positive ratings article. Now the sky's the limit. It only goes up from here, baby.
That's right. Hopefully one of these days we'll see.
Ratings helps though. Like we've talked. Actually, one of our viewers I thought had a great analysis of our speculation zone last week. In terms of the person was saying he's a current business major in college and was kind of analyzing the whole thing, and the ratings part of it he was right on. Is if the ratings stay solid, in theory, you should be able to hopefully raise ad rates next year, which then brings in more money for Disney and Fox. Because as we've learned, Disney does have a bit of a stake in a way with this league. So, the current ad rate they've said is $4,600 a game for the regular games, which is low. And that is my experience too. That's low. But even doubling that, double your money, even get 50% more of that. I imagine the TV companies will be very happy if they can 100%. Get even 50% better rate. So, without a doubt, I'm going to find the user really quick and say thanks. But it does bring quite the conversation on what is ahead of the light ahead of in the tunnel is all I can tell you.
Well, and we'll talk preview later on, but man, I have high hopes for the game between the Battlehawks and the Stallions. But I hope that's a game that every UFL fan tunes into. I don't care if you're a Defenders fan. I don't care if you're a Brahmas fan. I don't care if you're a diehard Renegades fan. This is the game. We all need to be watching this game this week. One, it's going to tell us a lot about these two teams.
Yes.
Right? And I don't want to spoil the preview, but we need to be tuning into that game. I tune into all the games. I don't expect everybody to tune into all the games. I get it. That's a big ask out of people, 4 games a weekend. I know that there's probably a good chunk. I bet you a good amount of that baseline are people that are watching all 4 of these games, right? I guess you could probably look at something like Fox Sports 1, like when we get those types of Fox Sports, or looking at FX from last year when you have that 250,000 to 300,000.
That's your hardcore.
I think those are your hardcore base that's tuning in to every one of those games. And that's, in some instances about half or a third of your audience, which that's nice, right? That's nice and something you can build on, especially, unlike the NFL, it is impossible to watch every game unless you're, at a sports bar, or you have, the package where you're watching every game at the same time. At least there's only a few instances where we have to deal with that with the UFL, but thank goodness for foxsports.com.
I know
that you can stream them.
That's good. That's a great piece to have.
They should add in a feature though. So you know how they show it on their broadcast?
Yes.
Where it shows like the side by side. They need to add that into foxsports.com. That needs to be a thing, like a dual broadcast option.
Would be nice. I really would appreciate that. And given, I mean, the amount of games they have on there, I know they're still leaning heavily on the cable connection, but that could be changing again. The industry's changing, so we'll have to wait and see. Plus, I wonder what random skew, but I do wonder what foxsports.com looks like once this merged 3-piece sports package streaming service that comes out later this year will that look like? Like, if you get a login on there, do you just get instant access to that? Because you should. I mean, in theory, you would think just like if I'm paying $40 for that, I would think I should get a free, like, okay, here's it on the app. Makes sense to me.
I would think. I don't know. Well, I don't know how this would work, but so similar to how you can log into foxsports.com with like your YouTube or your Sling or your DirecTV or whatever it is, credentials. I would hope that the new Fox Sports service would be similar, because if you had a cable package, in theory, it would cover all of those things. Now, that does mean that you need cable, but I don't know. The whole, Zach, we were talking about this before we got on the air. The whole thing with streaming's got me going mad, Zach. It's got me all hot and bothered. There's
a lot of people hot and bothered.
Too many of the, oh my God. Sooner or later, it's going to be worse than cable, because we're going to have packages. I'm just waiting for Fox and them to do their thing, and Hulu's now a Disney thing, and they're going with Paramount and doing something. And watch, you're going to have streaming services that are going to be missing channels. I'm waiting for Hulu not to have Fox channels and Fox not to have Disney channels. And where does that leave things like old-fashioned TV, as we'll call it, like cable or YouTube TV, even though they will say we're not cable. They're cable, guys.
They're cable.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know where we're going with this tangent anymore.
Either way, like, look, it affects our UFL viewing experience. And shout out, I found the user. Shout out to Sam S for the conversation, because it was really like I would say the quote caught me by surprise, or didn't catch me by surprise for the sake of the content, but like he put in like a full breakdown of his angle of this, because it is, if you can increase the TV revenues, because again, we already know they've been dirt cheap for the most part for both these leagues just to kind of get in. But now you show there's more value with them combined and better ratings. Always helps an advertiser justify paying more if they raise the rate, which these companies probably do want to raise their rate a little bit,
Sure.
Random fun fact I learned from, because there is a TV ad news site. I'm forgetting what the name is. I think it's Adweek. They actually revealed apparently last year SmackDown on Fox was able to pull its best rates ever or its best ratings ever for the rates they pay, which is I guess for an ad on SmackDown is like 52,000.
Man,
and that's like,
nice.
And that comparing that to the Super Bowl is kind of wild, but like think about that. So SmackDown you pay 52,000 for, and they're, credit, they do better than UFL games, but like kind of puts in comparison how much you could possibly raise rates for UFL ads in the future if you're only paying $4,600 per ad.
Oh yeah,
so
100%.
That's a good. I think that's a good like comparison, like two poll type of thing. I digress, and that's all I have left. Because anyway, next week should be big. You hope it should be big. There's no reason there is. Birmingham and St. Louis are both top 2 markets in viewership polled locally. They've been consistently hitting locally as the top 2 markets all year. Michigan usually is about 3, and that's also a good thing. If you're doing a debate, we'll do again later with our team discussions as we've had it. But should be to me, I'm expecting a good rating this week. A lot of hype around this game too, not just in here, but also with like casual football fans. Should be a good one.
Yeah, and I mean when we get to the previews, I think there's another game on there that I'll be looking. There's actually 2 games on there that I think could be fun. So basically 3 of the 4 is what I'm saying. The first one, well, anyway, let's not jump ahead of ourselves.
Got a little more before we jump ahead of ourselves. Yeah.
We got our buddy Jim Pop. You know, the thing is, Zach, anytime we got interviews going on with any of these league personnel, it always feels like we're getting some kind of nugget that's coming out of it. Right.
Yeah.
We've learned so many things just from little interviews spread out all across the country. And this one is no different. WJOX 94.5. They had him on. Zach, I don't know. You probably know a little bit more about this than I do. If you want to, I haven't even watched the clip, but I know the details.
That's fine. Look, for those that follow along with the scene, especially Birmingham fans, WJOX 94.5. Jim Pop was on with McElroy and Kubelik in the morning. So that's one of their marquee drive time show. Essentially out in Birmingham, near Birmingham and in kind of the central Alabama region, if you will. And, you know, they talked to Jim because, you know, look, it's that time of year. We're back half of the season. We're going to discuss some off-season topics, I think. And I think that's exactly what they leaned into with this interview in a lot of regards was, hey, let's talk a bit of future proofing here because it's week 7 coming up. So they discussed with him on Wednesday. And they asked him a few items. First off, they asked, hey, Zach Potter, how much more does he have in the league, you think? Or like, are NFL teams looking at him? Basically, he said, yeah, there's NFL teams that are definitely keeping an eye on him. Second part of this interview that caught people's eye was the college draft, because I think a few people have been bringing this up and have wanted to discuss, well, hey, both leagues did a draft last year. You know, we've been playing this kind of merger, like I pick a thing, you pick a thing type of deal. Which one of those was going to stick? Were we going to do February draft again, like the USFL, or were we going to do the summer showcases and draft like we did this past year with the XFL? And Jim has confirmed that the XFL style college draft during the summer will be how they do the drafts moving forward. So come roughly June, July area, you know, you're going to be kind of seeing some picks being made, probably showcases being made as well to kind of get things started. So we're going to be seeing a summer draft. That all that does is for them more so locks in that if we have the rights to you early, we can do that. And I think they want to, I think their discussion on this when we were covering the XFL or like following along is we're trying to pick up the guys that didn't get picked up immediately after. They're basically fighting for undrafted free agents or those that are like in the very early cuts or UDFAs that didn't get picked up from the UDFA pickups and signings immediately after the draft in April and now into May.
Which would give them an opportunity to play in the upcoming season, whereas unlike the USFL draft, right, you had that draft right before training camp to where even if, let's say you signed somebody, they weren't coming into training camp. We did see some of the guys come through mid-season, sure, but this allows this to me. I like this a little bit better. If only it allows the players to have the opportunity to have a choice, even going into the NFL season. Because let's say NFL season's week 15, 16, you can look at that and say, okay, you know what? Let me shift gears. I have this opportunity with the UFL. I'm going to go jump over there. This team drafted me. They have my rights, so I can go jump on. The Stallions, who maybe they're a three-peat champion at that point. Get your legs wet over there, you know, with potentially a championship caliber team to get your shot in the NFL. So I do think it makes sense in the grand scheme of things. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to covering it with you, Zach. It gives us some off-season stuff to cover in the summertime. So that's exciting. We generally, that's our slow point. So we'll have something to talk about.
Yeah, it'll kind of fill out a bit of the gaps there for sure. And I think for them, like I see the logic is what I can say. The college, like I said, they're trying to get guys. Now they have veterans under their belts. You know, there's not going to be a veteran draft like we did in November for last year with the XFL. For those that might remember, it's going to be basically the rookie draft, which is what it should be, or now college draft coming out. Because once you can still do UDFA signings, and there'll be some bylaws on when they can and cannot sign players. We'll keep in mind. But yeah, I mean, that'll be a fun little after season edition. We don't have to wait as long. It won't be as much of a dead period. And I think that's kind of what they're hoping for is, you see how the NFL's done it. They basically have an all year long discussion where people stay in the loop. That is their whole angle. They want you invested 24/7, 365. In a way that kind of does this job because, the season will be over pretty much will be over in June. So you're going to figure that if they're going to do a draft, it won't be that far into the summer before they're instantly going, all right, time to start picking up some kids that are after. If I had to guess, so the rookie draft was in June last year for the XFL, June 16th. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if they're going to wait until August because with the training camps, you're going to get down to all these cuts, especially final cuts. And I think what they want to see is let's wait till final cuts where all these UDFA undrafted free agents, for those that aren't following along, just in case, are available and are let go and aren't retained by teams. Then we can go right to them and go, hey, young man, we want to put you in this draft. We have rights to you. If you want a contract and you want to play somewhere and show off your stuff, which we can prove that we can get players up to the next level, here, you're already signed on for next year. You can start training right now, and you can start talking to coaches. And I think that's the plan. I think they're going to wait until probably late August, if not early September, to do this so that they can make sure all this class is available. It won't be in July or June. June or July, I bet they'll do showcases again. Yep. I think that's the plan. Jim didn't say that per se, but I would be shocked if they didn't do them again and say, hey, if you want to come out and show your stuff off so we can get scouts for our draft later this year, do that. I think it's in August. That's my speculative part of this whole deal. And that's not even the full thing we're discussing with Jim. He had one other quote that I think, we kind of tie into last week. And I'll let you read that off because look, talk a lot about teams. That's all we can say. And he did get asked because it's an episode. They wanted to kind of ask about next year, and they didn't hold back. They asked him direct questions, and he gave his best answer he could.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it takes us right back to our speculation zone from last week where we were talking about will they move some of the teams in the offseason. We talked about expansion. Last week we talked about maybe they move some of the teams around. Specifically, we talked about Michigan and a few of the other teams. I know I mentioned Houston, but there's another one in the mix. Well, here's what Jim Pop had to say. There's several different people out there that do want teams in their cities, which is something we've heard. I mean, I think Nashville's been thrown around. We know that Canton wants a team. They wanted a team when the USFL was there. They played in Canton. They didn't have a team, but they had the championship there. We know that there was talks with Pittsburgh in the past. We know that there was talks in New Orleans. So I don't know if this gives credence to the relocation, if it gives credence to the expansion, or if it gives credence to both. But it definitely seems that they're at minimum, there's at least conversations happening, or at least people reaching out and saying, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a UFL team in our market and wherever it is, United States, So maybe not the best news for some fans if you're worried about relocation, but the interest is never a bad thing, right?
No.
People could argue that Memphis doesn't have the greatest attendance, but if it wasn't for Memphis, we would have had one extra season with an extra hub team, right? We wouldn't have had the Tampa Bay Bandits probably wouldn't have been playing in Tampa Bay still, right? And so where would that have left the USFL in season 2? I don't know. So, interest is never a bad thing. Where does that lead us? Is it relocation? Is it expansion? Is it both? I don't know, but I'll never take it as a bad thing. When you're worried is when no city wants your team.
Yes.
Right.
That at least that's the good thing is you do have what I am imagining, if I had to interpret this quote as city officials, I am assuming, or businesses that are expressing interest. Remember, Fred Smith did have a key role in bringing Memphis to Memphis. So, that is anyone who has a little bit of interest with some poll is good to hear, is what I take it as. Now, where that may be, again, I look at the ratings as an example and some of the rumors around maybe we'll get to 10 based on the government discussions from last year. I still am a big proponent of just putting a team in New Orleans right away. There's tons of evidence towards suggesting you should, and I would be surprised if they avoided that market unless they can't find a venue, but I digress. He also kind of mentioned, and this is a bit of summarization based on our buddy Luke Miller from Stallions, kind of bringing up this tweet about this, saying they are continuing to evaluate current markets as well as potential new markets, which kind of ties into the discussion on Michigan, Memphis, the low attendance. Do you do something? Now, granted, I will say Michigan, and some people will scoff at this, did have a rebound in attendance from their last game, did hit just under 7,500. Some people will laugh. I will say, hey, I'll fight tooth and nail for the Panthers to exist, because those TV ratings still suggest, by the way, they should not be let go. And I will say, if we've talked about our viewer Sam S. and his evaluation on this whole thing, again, if they bring in money in the TV side of it, that venue might be expensive, and they're gonna have to figure that out. But it makes me so much harder for me to want to move away from that.
Yep.
Is all I can tell you. But clearly, Jim Pop is kind of bringing up what we've seen as the USFL's approach from the 2 years they were existing, where it's like, hey, look, we got teams, but if we need to move one, or we find a place that benefits us financially more so, we might jump. And I kind of took that a summarization as that.
Right.
They did it with Memphis. I hope it's not Memphis, and my reason being because they're upgrading that stadium starting this summer to like a gorgeous remodeling of that venue. I would hate to see that team move if they get to play in like a brand spanking new place to play, but I don't have pull on that,
Yep. We'll have to see how it plays out, but that's what the off season's for, Zach. We have so much to talk about and so many more months to talk about it. But you know what's right around the corner? Good old UFL Week 7.
Oh, baby.
And we got some playoff things on the line here, clinching scenarios. Zach, I know you're happy about this one. You have to defy ref's law, so you have to win, and you need Houston and Memphis to lose.
This isn't defying ref's law. This plays into ref's law.
Well, yes, you need ref's law to be accurate to
Thank
win
you.
on your side. Now,
Yes.
you need to defy it if what I think might happen. But
I need to defy you. I need to defy you. That's what I have to defy. The law's right. It's just you don't want the certain part of the law to be right this week. I get.
Well, we'll get into my thoughts. We'll get into them. Now, I know some people are going to look at this first matchup and say, what's the point? Why am I watching this? And to me, that's the point. That's why you watch it. Because whenever you have a matchup like this, whenever you have like a one win team versus a no win team, or two winless teams playing each other, man, it always somehow, some way ends up being one of the most entertaining games on the field. Whether it's circus plays, shenanigans, all the emotions are on the field. And I don't know, Zach, people would argue with me and say, no. The Memphis Showboats are the worst team in the league. Now, they beat the Houston Roughnecks. Mm-hmm. The Houston Roughnecks beat the Arlington Renegades. Some could say logic would lead you to believe that the Memphis Showboats could beat the Arlington Renegades. Now, the Renegades are seemingly not a bad team. They just have very bad luck, as we saw last week. Well,
they do.
That was on them too, to be fair. The Renegades could have avoided that a little bit, but hey, you never know. Things happen, whatever. This one is a tough one for me this week, Zach. I really don't know who to pick. It could go either. It really could go either way. It's all up to who wants to screw up the most. And if there's any game that's going to go into overtime, this might be it. And it could be a 38-38 overtime, or it could be like a 3-3 overtime. We will see. And that is the beauty of this game, if you ask me. That is all eyes on the Showboats and Renegades. Can the Renegades get their first win? Can the Showboats keep their playoff chances alive? I don't know, Zach. What do you think?
I think this is a matchup that you should be interested in because it'll affect the college draft if I'm going to take a guess as to the rollout of the order. Keep in mind, unless they change the draft order, by the way, for this first round, you're most likely going to see one of these two teams as possibly the first pick. Mm-hmm. And I think that for Arlington fans, I find this is a tank bowl personally. Like we're one of the two, one of the several options for tank bowl. If we are talking about the end of the season, and this is one of the first steps towards that. Arlington, can they get their first win? That would make the conversation for college draft position even more fascinating. Because if not, if Memphis wins this week, I'm not saying that it's guaranteed, but it certainly feels like at that point Arlington almost has secured their number one position. They wouldn't be over, but it would make things much more clear as to who gets that first pick. But I do think if you see Arlington win, which I actually have Arlington winning, I know that we've been talking all year. Arlington's the best looking terrible team of the bunch, and they have one of the top two passers in the league, or top three. I'll put of course Adrian Martinez up there as well because he's been showing it. Dude's been showing out clearly when he's allowed to start. But Luis Perez is no joke. They have an offense that last week I thought showed the best identity that they've had all year. Defense still is a problem, but credit Memphis's defense isn't too much of a powerhouse lately. I think the questions are going to be, who gets more pressure and who slows down who more is the deal. Memphis, I don't know who they're going to throw out at QB this week because it's kind of up in the air. Wouldn't be shocked if it's Case Cookus again, and then they throw Troy Williams if things go south. But I think offensive production is in Arlington's favor. And I think that's what I've got. My thing is which coaches will step out of the way, though. Because as much as I trust Arlington offensively, I don't trust that coaching staff to just leave things be. There's going to be that weird Lindsey Scott play every drive that they want to make it happen, and it usually doesn't work. Or they'll make him be the guy that's in there for extra points because why? I don't get it, but Lindsey Scott's the extra point guy for some reason. They choose him. I don't understand it, but they like him being in there. Or you're going to see some weird 4th down and 1 call that might mess things up. It's not just last week, people. Mm-hmm. This is a regular occurrence. So can you trust Arlington's coaching staff to step the hell out of the way for 1 week against a opponent that matches up with you pretty well? Because on paper, I got Arlington, but I don't trust Bob Stoops or Chuck Long or Jonathan Hayes at all to do the job right now.
I don't think Bob Stoops likes the number 200. I don't think he wants that 200th win. That is what's keeping him away from the win. Now, let me throw something at you, Zach. So let's say the Arlington Renegades win this week. Now we have 3 teams kind of at the bottom of the barrel, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say the Arlington Renegades end up winning another game between now and week 10, and the Roughnecks and the Showboats don't win another game. Guess who plays final week? Do you think we'll see the league put on the tank bowl rule? Whoever wins the game gets the number 1 pick, because I'm actually kind of rooting for that a little bit now.
Could you imagine? I mean, look, I thought it was a fun little added addition of pressure when they did it 2 years ago. I wouldn't mind it if they spun it up as, hey, winner gets the first pick again.
Yeah, because I love it. It gives you a reason to watch.
It was a fun watch from 2022, and I remember that game because they went and they put in Paxton Lynch and kind of finally pulled the trigger on Paxton Lynch, and he went off. Yep. He was a madman in that last matchup that year against Pittsburgh, and I kind of want that drama again, but that would be fun. That's a hypothetical right there. Houston and Memphis, circle that date. If things play out the way they could, boy, I hope they pull the fun card out.
I do too. Now, I don't know if it'll get to that, and we'll talk about why here in a little bit, but we do have one more game in the way here. We have the Michigan Panthers and the DC Defenders. Now, to me, it's hard for me not to talk about the next game when I talk about this game, because I feel like ref's law is so intertwined at this point that I when I look at the Panthers at the DC Defenders, I mean, on paper, the Panthers should win this game. The Defenders did come out a little bit hot last week. They did switch some things up. The Panthers, maybe they should have been a little bit harder against the team that hasn't won a game this season. They did win, but barely. So that leaves a lot of questions on the table, if you ask me. But then I look at the Roughnecks and the Brahmas. Brahmas equally did not have a great showing last week. Roughnecks equally. Yeah, the Roughnecks haven't had a great showing a lot of the season, but when they play, they play. I could see the Roughnecks pulling it out, and I could see Michigan Panthers losing, which makes, it makes the playoff scenarios a little sticky and a little stinky in the USFL conference, especially if the Showboats win too. So let's say the Showboats win, the win, and the Panthers lose. You have to look. I know this didn't happen to you last year, but you got to look at what happened with the Stars and say, man, it felt like it was a guarantee. And if you look at the standings now, does it not look like a guarantee? 4-2 compared to 1-5, but all of a sudden it's 4-3 to 2-5.
Yeah.
And then one more week, all of a sudden it's 3-5 to 4-4. Uh-oh, 2 weeks left. What do, right? And so, I mean, to me, this feels like if you're the Panthers, and this is something they haven't been good at, right, when it comes to the season, is closing out games. They will get a game, they'll get a good lead, and they will kind of lay off the gas, give the other team an opportunity to come back. You almost saw it happen with the Showboats. They were able to hold them off, win the game. Tomorrow, they need to come, Saturday. Yeah, actually tomorrow. They need to come into this game, into DC, and give DC their second loss at home. They need to. They might not secure that playoff spot because if either the Showboats or the Roughnecks win, but if you can get that win, that at least you don't lose the standing, at least, right? You're still an equal distance away from the guy behind you. To me, this is almost not a do or die, but this is as close to a must win as you can get without it being a must win. Because what you don't want is you don't want these players to get the jitters. You don't want them looking at that and saying, man, we could have clinched it, we lost, and then you start thinking about it. And then if you lose the game next week too, oh boy, imagine the jitters that you'll have with 2 weeks left and maybe that road narrowing down. We'll have to see. We'll have to see what Panthers team we get tomorrow. Can they win? Yes. Should they win? Yes. Will they win? They're going to have to prove it to me.
I think this is actually, if it wasn't for St. Louis and Birmingham existing, this would be my game of the week right here. Mm-hmm. I think these two actually match up really well against each other, primarily because of the fact of what I saw in DC last week against San Antonio. Look, Michigan, they have been one of the top rushing teams all season. They have found some sort of rhythm now, I think, with Wes Hills and Matt Colburn in a bit more of a controlled RPO. And Danny Etling's gotten better every week and has calmed down more than EJ Perry did. EJ, to me, excellent runner and a bit better than Danny. But Danny, one thing he does well is I think he reads the plays better and just kind of takes and processes things a little more calm and collectively than EJ does. And it's helped, I think, better their offense for it. Last week was a pretty great performance overall for that offense. They had a few stutters. I think that's things they got to work over is some 3-and-outs that kind of allowed Arlington to kind of get a bit ahead later on in that second half. But I do think they match up well against DC. DC, my main question is, can you reinvigorate and get back pressure on Danny Etling and get him rattled? Because Arlington didn't do that as much. They weren't too great with that on the defensive end last week. They did get him back there at times, but DC has stepped up to the plate in recent weeks and has gotten those sack numbers and pressures have gone up significantly as well. Second thing to me, can Greg Williams have a similar performance in the secondary with his play calling they did last week against Quentin Dormady and San Antonio? Credit, some people we talked on ATU. Quentin Dormady, he's had his own struggles the last 2 weeks, and you could chalk that up to that. But I do got to give Williams credit. He did adjust and has fine-tuned his defense within a short period of time and looked much better against a high-tier opponent. So I'm wondering if he's going to key in on that, because I think the run game is going to be the big testament to see if Michigan can pull off a win. DC, on the other hand, that loss of Frank Ginda, huge for the Panthers. And they're going to see if they can key in and try and get something going, I think more so in the pass game. There's been instances as a Michigan fan that I don't truly trust the pass game for the Panthers. They play a lot of man, but good receivers beating man coverage can throw things off. And Kelvin Harmon, Ty Scott, Chris Rowland, I expect, are going to get their numbers. But can you disorient Jordan Ta'amu and get him on a bad week? This will be a fun one. It won't be talked about as much because the game we're waiting till the end to talk about exists. But expect some fireworks. I think you're going to have a fun time. DC fans should have a fun time out there too. That's only going to make Michigan's job a little bit harder.
Absolutely. And the one thing I'm happy about, at least we're getting a marquee matchup on each day. We have a marquee matchup, if you ask me, on Saturday when you're looking at the Panthers and the Defenders. And then, we'll get to it with the Battlehawks and the Stallions. But everybody's been talking about it. We've been talking about it for weeks. People have been talking about it since the beginning of the season, that game. Man, at the end of the day, I'm going Defenders on this one, buddy. I'm going to go the Defenders. And you want to know why? Because I think the Roughnecks are pulling it out. I think the Roughnecks are going to beat the Brahmas. And you know what? Maybe this is the week. Maybe ref's law can be defied. It has twice in the last 2 years, year and a half, whatever. It's been defied. It can happen. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling hot. I'm ready to gamble. All in. I know that was last year's thing, but I'm still all in, baby. And I don't know. I feel like the Roughnecks, they want that win. They're coming home. They want to get a win because there's only one more home game. Let's get a fun crowd, which I did get some emails. There's some fun events coming up. If you're a Roughnecks fan and you're a season ticket holder, check your inbox because they have some watch parties. They have events going on this week. They have some meet and greets coming. But more importantly, Zach, they got a big thing going for the final game of the season. All the season ticket holders can go down on the field at the end of the game, meet all the players after the game. To me, that's super cool. So anyway, show up this week so we can show up next week.
Fun little nugget for that DC and Michigan game. And again, I sparingly talk betting on here, but what surprised me, it's the closest margin for over-under differential out of all the games this week. It's a -1 to Michigan. Start of the week is -1 DC. Shows you how people in Vegas think about it. Honestly, I would have taken it as a pick'em because I think it's going to be that close. So that just means, hey, even odds for both sides. Doesn't matter who's the favorite, but Michigan now is slightly lean the favorite because otherwise, as we'll talk here, the best game of the week actually has the highest odds for a favorite in Birmingham and St. Louis when we talk about that momentarily.
I'm excited to hear about that. Stormy Kyleman over here coming with the facts. All right.
I know. Look, her influence is rubbing off on me.
Yeah, I like it.
I have not put any slips in, but you just wait. It's just going to happen now.
So you taking the Panthers this week?
I'm taking Panthers, but I'll be honest with you. If I were looking at this as like, if I had to pick a favorite, there's no favorite here. I think this is going to be a even matchup. DC is desperate for the sake of they want to keep up with San Antonio, and I think on the other side, Michigan wants to just get their playoff berth clinched. And I think, like you're talking about, they saw last year what could happen if you don't wrap things up when you have the chance. 4-2. The other two opponents in the division are looking subpar at right now. And why mess around with that? That it also, I think, is a prove it game for Michigan fans to say, hey, final step in saying we are one of the top four. Because DC last week shocked me. So I really do wonder, was that like a fluke game for the Defenders, or will the Panthers come out and get a win? I don't know. I'm taking the Panthers here.
I'll tell you this. If the Showboats win, I think the Panthers have a less chance of winning. I think they're going to get in their head and they're going to say, or actually, I take it back. If the Showboats lose, they have a better chance of losing the game.
You're playing the mental card.
I think so. I think they're going to get in their heads of, this is it. We have a chance to lock it down. You're going to go into that game. They're not going to help themselves from thinking about the game that happened. Now we'll see. We will see. But that leads us over beautiful Rice Stadium, Texas Throwdown again. We have the Brahmas taking on the Roughnecks, which is a little bit of a homecoming for those Brahmas, funny enough, at least some of them. some of the players, a lot of the coaches, AJ Smith, Wade Phillips. I'm curious to see how the fans react to that. I'm sure they're going to get actually a nice welcome back. I think so. I think, fans like them. I don't think they like the situation. But I don't know. I don't know what it is, Zach. Call it the shock game. I think this is the shock game right here. Everything says that Wade Phillips and AJ Smith should be able to come back into Houston and win this game against a team that's seemingly not in their league. But though that feels like a recipe to lose. It just feels like a recipe to lose. I think that the Roughnecks have a chance. It's almost a little bit of a trap game. Although the Brahmas are going to be trying to rebound, that there is playoff pieces in play for them as well. They need to clinch. So there's a lot on the line here, but pride goes a long way. And like I said, there's only 2 games left at home for Houston. You want to get those wins in. You want to make these fans happy. And what better way to get that win in than against the coaches and some of the players that used to play as that team and say, look, you guys all thought that you guys had the better team and they left. No, we're the better team. Look, we are the better team. We're the Houston Roughnecks now, like the captain meme, we're the Houston Roughnecks now. So I don't know. I have a feeling that the Roughnecks could pull this out.
I think for my sake that this is a testament to how much Quentin Dormady is going to have to get mentally away from what happened last week. It was an ugly game for him. Not one of his best performances. What can AJ Smith and company do to make things easier for him? Because the deal is, one thing with AJ Smith's offense is it's supposed to be universally made so that a quarterback can basically get plopped in and run this kind of like quick RPO scheme, quick decision throws. It's not designed to be a multi-read offense. It shouldn't be. Clearly, if you watch any San Antonio game, that is the design of their offense. Is if it's a throw, they want you to get out the first or second read. If you're past the second read and there's no one there, that's when things start to get into the danger zone and people begin to panic. So clearly, that's what Houston's going to have to key in on, and you're going to see Chris Wilson key in on is, can I get my coverage and pressure to where I am not allowing the Brahmas to have these quick, short throws or get these quick out route throws that are going to make and cause damage when they get yards after the catch with like John Kirkland and company. Time will tell, but that's what your challenge is. Dormady's going to have to prove this week if he's not going to have the same performance the second week in a row. To me, the difference maker as to why I can't pick Houston is the Brahmas defense. That to me is my issue. Now, I do think that Houston can keep people on schedule. I think their offense definitely shows if they keep on their schedule, they can move the ball. I just don't trust that offense to consistently move the ball at a level that can outpace a Brahmas defense that is great at causing pressure, is the deal. There are opportunities in the pass game, but can you stave off the pressure enough to find those opportunities? I'm not 100% sold. That being said, I'm kind of with you, Stefan, in the sense that the Brahmas have, I think, the most pressure on them out of all the teams currently playing this week. You can make an argument for St. Louis, personally, less so for Birmingham. Yes, they're both competing to still have that number 1 seed, and St. Louis is not out of the woods to be, quote, eliminated. But I don't see St. Louis in that position because they have all their positions pretty well set up right now and are very sturdy. The Brahmas now, with how the QB position's been playing, the injuries that have stacked up with that team, they have the most pressure on them because DC now is back hot on their trail. Mm-hmm. You can't take a loss this week. DC's playing a much tougher opponent in Michigan that you're hoping, goes the wrong way away, and that Michigan pulls it out. You can get some separation, but you can't slouch against the Roughnecks. This is not a game you want to lose, because to me, you talk about Michigan's whole, maybe they get in their heads. This is one I could see if they take a loss here, there's some things that might be falling off the tracks. I don't think they will. I think that is a better coach team that Wade Phillips and AJ Smith and company have. But if there's an upset, I don't like the trend. That's all I can tell you. That will show some really bad trends going on there.
100%.
Be kind of like a repeat of the Roughnecks last year under that same unit, difference being they had that division locked up a while ago. This time it's, well, crap. Now we ever since Chase Garbers has been knocked out, it's kind of been like consistent downhill play from Dormady ever since he had that solid first half against the Michigan Panthers.
And maybe we have a trend on our hands. Let's hope. I mean, we look at the Roughnecks' only win this season. It was at home. It was against the Renegades. Let's get another win at home against the other team in Texas, the San Antonio Brahmas. I'll tell you this, though. If the Panthers win, I have almost zero hope that the Roughnecks win. I that's how much I believe in ref's law at this point. I'm putting all my chips on it in hopes that the Panthers lose to DC. The Brahmas are like, crap, we really got to win this game. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. But that does lead us to arguably, maybe not even, everybody seems to say it. Maybe it's not arguably at all, the game of the week. I mean, this is the flippin' game of the week right here. We have the Battlehawks traveling to Birmingham to take on the Stallions. And I mean, this is the game. This could either tie the records up, or this could be the Stallions just showing, well, we are that flippin' scary, and we are going to be a team to be reckoned with. And actually, we had these all out of order, actually. I don't know how I...
Well, the reason I put it last is because I want to say
it is the game of the week. Yeah.
Because, anyway, this is not the last game of the week, just as a heads up. This week, I wanted to really... Look, I wanted to save our takes for this one because it's one of those few games in spring football, I think, in even the last few years, where you're like, oh, man, this is like heavy hitters here.
Yeah.
Like two-time champ, looking like the... unstoppable force, beating what has been an immovable object ever since week 1. And they're going to be playing where AJ's visiting Birmingham, back in Alabama for his first time playing since he graduated from University of Alabama in 2013. It's been an 11-year journey back. A lot of hype. And two of the, if not the two most vocal fan bases in this league.
Oh, yeah.
Are going at each other.
When we talk about fans, it's hard to deny that the Battlehawks have one hell of a fan base behind them. And although maybe not in numbers at the games, I mean, the Stallions, they're back-to-back champions. We've been to Birmingham a couple times, Zach. We've met these fans in real life. They know how to throw one hell of a tailgate. They know how to grill one hell of a steak.
Yeah.
And they're passionate. Yeah. Buck 'em. You know what they say, buck 'em.
Buck 'em, baby.
They got their own things going on out there, their own fan clubs, their own sections in the crowd. This is going to be a fun game. Now, I'm curious to see how many of the Battlehawks faithful travel down from St. Louis, because I feel like if there's a game that you're going to travel to, if you're a Battlehawks fan, although this might be further away than Memphis, this should be on your list. If anything, you're going to want to support this team going into this game to give them the best chance that they can. And like you said, Zach, there's almost like a dual home field advantage going here. Although St. Louis is on the road, A.J. McCarron coming back to Alabama, I have a feeling there's going to be some people in the crowd with McCarron jerseys on.
Maybe a few. Maybe
right?
Just a few.
So, I mean, this is a very interesting game. I don't think we'll see like mean crowd, like angry crowds.
No,
I think we'll
see
boisterous, fun football atmosphere between two passionate football fan bases. That's at least what I hope for out of this. And honestly, this game, I hope it's not a stinker. If it's a stinker, I hope it's just a defensive powerhouse. But I want to see everything. Good, hard-hitting football to fancy, fun plays to shocking moments to maybe a couple ref calls that you scratch your head and you say, what are you doing? Only for a few plays later, the refs do the same thing to the other team. And you're like, well, all right, well, at least it's even now. But can you stop doing that, please? All of it. Just a little bit of all of it. And what I would love to see, maybe more than the first game between the Showboats and the Renegades going into overtime, is this game going into overtime with a healthy score, with like a 24-24 overtime, right? Good bit of action on each side, good bit of defense on each side, but neither one could get it just a little bit more than the other team could. Nobody could grab that one extra yard on either team, send it to overtime. That, to me, if we saw the ratings increase and spike last week between the Renegades and the Panthers because it was a tight game at the end, imagine what could happen this week if this game is close near the end of the game, let alone going into overtime.
Well, I think for this one, no two possession affair, even if one gets ahead by 2, is safe. Remember, AJ McCarron has already proven he is one of the masters of the onside attempt. So, and honestly, Birmingham, for their sake, they haven't been in that situation, but I ain't gonna count them out. They clearly have the firepower on many levels to be able to keep up. I love the matchups this week. I love what this game provides for not only the storylines, for also the attention that the league's going to get from this, but in particular, I just love the football elements of looking at a versus scenario on field. You know, we talk about QB battles. They aren't direct battles, but McCarron's out there. He's been doing this all year in a significant way, getting better every week, similar to last year with his under Bruce Gadkowski. You look on the other side, Skip Holtz playing around with both QBs, finally settled on Adrian Martinez. And let's be honest, it appears to be the absolute right decision. You know, again, we saw what happened against Memphis. We've seen other performances that he's been this year, and he only gets better as he's gone on. But his toughest test of the season is this St. Louis Battlehawks defense, which up until this week has quietly now become the number 1 total defense in the UFL. Number 2, by the way, is Birmingham. So you are getting number 1 versus number 2 in this regard. And on the other side of the coin, you know, you're getting top 3s going at each other also on offense. Number 1 offense is Birmingham. So I love seeing it when it's these head-on type of points. For the passing game's sake, for Birmingham, I think it's the toughest challenge of the year, like I'm reiterating, because one thing I love with St. Louis, their defenders play excellent man coverage. And I'm not talking that, every ball's deflected or whatever. I'm talking that if you get a completion on them, yards after the catch rarely is the case. They are great at closing the gap on receivers and only allowing what is the catch on point for that. There's little yards after the catch. You are basically, a lot of times it's throw a ball, grab the ball, little extra comes from it. And that is really good defense that helps with adding on and helping benefit the offense on the other side. In terms of for McCarron and the offense on that end, I'm wondering how Birmingham's defense, being a little bit injury ravaged, does slow down that passing attack. Harrison Butler has become the de facto number 1 for the Battlehawks. But you can't slouch on guys like a Marcus Aitman or Ja'Cour Pearson. So how do you slow down that attack? Can you get pressure consistently enough and maintain McCarron to stay in a pocket where he doesn't scramble out to the outside to allow for stops? Because one thing McCarron's great at, he is great at escaping pressure. He's not really a runner, but you notice during games here, Stefan, he is excellent at evading a pass rush. He's a veteran. He knows that first rush, you don't have to panic. Just sidestep, find a little extra space. He's calm and collected. Can you get enough pressure on that end? And can the St. Louis defense on the opposite side rattle a young Adrian Martinez, who really has played with a lot of poise, but I don't think has played opponents to this level so far this season like a St. Louis. He didn't play against DC. Remember, Matt Corral played that game. We didn't get to see what he was like with a defense that it was relentlessly throwing blitzers or getting a front that is competitive in his face. Can he stand up to that challenge? Great storylines for this game. It is a huge matchup in the football landscape, not just the UFL. It is a great football matchup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm hoping we see a big crowd in Birmingham. I mean, this is your chance to
tracking
go support
that way.
your team, man. I am looking forward to it. I want you guys to be so loud. I want to see people traveling from St. Louis. I want you guys to be loud, and I want this game to be the game of the week that it deserves to be. There's so many ways that this game could go. At the end of the day, though, I think the Stallions pull it out. I don't know. I think although I think the Stallions are due for a loss, the Stallions should take a loss before the end of the season. But I think the Stallions win this game. I don't know. They've do it time and time and time again. The Stallions are the team. The Stallions prove to be the team. This would be their biggest test to date, and I still do think they lose a game this season. I don't think they go through the season undefeated, nor do I think they want to. For the reasons I brought up in the past, I think if anything, there's a psychological reason behind getting that loss going into the playoffs. But I think the Stallions pull it out this week. Call me crazy. I think so.
Interesting. You can call this the sake of the argument. I am actually going to go with St. Louis on this one.
Interesting.
Even though this crowd, I will say, I've been tracking the sales. I am almost guaranteeing this will be the largest crowd of the season, just based on the new sections they've opened up in Birmingham. So it will be loud. They will be rowdy there. It's probably going to easily beat the sub 13,000 from the opener. It will probably be like closer to like 14, 15 is my guess. So it will be a loud crowd. But the way I've looked at St. Louis's offense, I'm not sure where exactly, because you can slow down and you can keep Harrison Butler tied up. I just don't know if the Stallions have enough in the secondary to keep a Marcus Aitman or Ja'Cory Pearson locked up. That's my question. There's a lot of names, and I think it'll be a shootout. Personally, I know that both these defenses are great at delivering pressure, and both are actually pretty damn good at run game defense as well, which will be crucial for St. Louis. If they're going to have any shot of slowing down Birmingham, you can't let Adrian Martinez get out of the pocket, and you can't let CJ Marable or Roundtree or Person damage you in the run game as well. I think they can do that task, and I think they can rattle Adrian Martinez a little bit. If you do that, and if you basically look for your second or third option, McCarron can find Pearson or Aitman on a regular basis, because I think Butler's going to get double teamed, or he's going to get a lot of pressure put on him. That's not to say he won't get his targets, but I think he will get limited. John Javik is not a slouch defensive coordinator, as you know.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
Go on. But
final point is I just think there's a little bit more oomph in the tank for the St. Louis Battlehawks, but this is my championship preview right here. So looking forward to it.
I'll tell you this. If the Stallions win this week, I think that the game they lose is week 10 against the Panthers. I'll give you that, Jack. And
I can
only
see
because they're probably going to go against the Panthers in the playoffs, and they're not going to want to show them their game.
Exactly. If they do that, they're not going to go. It'll be like General Stars 2 years ago. You credit they played full force for that game, but let's be real. I wouldn't want to be playing if there's no, at that point, if they stay the same, you see Birmingham win this game, they both finish out the season. Maybe Michigan loses this week to DC, but they cruise the rest of the way. 3-game gap, you're not going to play your starters. You're going to probably play a half, and then they'll both flip out. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they don't, but these are pro coaches. I would highly doubt they would if they have to play next week, or the game plan is going to be different. But I'm telling you, man, I'm picking St. Louis. It's another one. I can see it go either way, but this is my championship preview. This is a lot of people's championship preview right here. The hype will be real. This will be a good game. Yeah. If it isn't, I will be shocked if it's not close, at least going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, if this is a blowout, I mean, congrats to whoever team
for real
pulls it off, right? Like they really I'll be honest, if the Battlehawks blow out the Stallions, I'll probably be more impressed than if the Stallions blow out the Battlehawks. I know people are going to be saying, so biased.
And look at me go back to the Vegas. Well, again, -4. They have Stallions are favored by 4 points right now by Vegas odds. And before earlier this week when some odds changed, it was the biggest deficit of the week. I don't look at Vegas as determining what matters personally. I just found that interesting that someone in Vegas went, oh, yeah, this seems like the most obvious favorite of the week. I'm like, really?
Yeah. Well, do
you not follow the community or how these teams have been playing?
Vegas is great for NFL. and
it is
things like that. These games, I mean, well, as we saw at the beginning of the season, they had no idea that the Brahmas were a completely new staff, and you could see that by the odds, where if somebody, I mean, are the Brahmas going to win the championship? I don't know. I don't think so. But hey, the Renegades did last year, so anything is possible. Yeah. You could have put some money on it and won some good cash. I think it was like plus 1,200 odds for the Brahmas to win the championship prior to week 1. So
it was pretty good stuff
money if they pull it off. That is. Fun week ahead of us. Maybe, I mean, every week it seems like it's the best week that we're going to look at. And so it seems like we are getting luckier and luckier with the matchups this year. If you want things to be exciting towards the end of the season, you should probably be hoping for the Panthers to lose. I'm sorry, Zach.
If you're for the USFL conference, this is if you're a guy that wants like drama till the end, you probably don't want Michigan winning this week for the sake of being, oh great, it's all locked up. I guess we can just talk about really nothing with seeding because I don't see that changing. So.
See, here's the thing. We got everybody right where we want them. I've been talking 12-0. I've been saying 12-0. That's been a ruse the whole time. It's always been about 4-6 going into the playoffs. That's the magic number. And we're so close, Zach. We just need to win 3 more games. And that's the ticket, because we get into the playoffs. That's almost a guaranteed chance you're getting to the championship. We saw it in both leagues last year. And then from there, it's a 50-50 chance. 50-50 chance that you win.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take those odds. Better than none.
Oh, yeah.
All in. All in. We'll see. Can the Roughnecks do it? Let me know down in the comments below. I think that's it. But, I mean, that's it. Like, we didn't talk about a whole bunch of fun stuff going on here. But
I think that about wraps it.
Yeah. We got, like I said, I hope you guys enjoy the games this weekend. But just to reiterate, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you click the bell. It builds morale. Make sure you like the video or dislike the video. It's free. It costs nothing, but it goes a long way. Mondays, hey, here's another good reason. If you're subscribed and you click the bell, beyond building morale, it also lets you know when we go live, just like every Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern for Around the UFL. Join the PFM panel. We're going to be reacting to all the madness in Week 7, including, did Refs Law move up from 83%? Did the Battlehawks or the Stallions, which one pulled them off? You got to join us Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, because we're going to be talking about it and we're going to be having fun. Make sure you're following us on social media. What the hell are you doing? At UFL Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of the places. Also, PF Newsroom, UFL Newsroom, or UFL Newsroom. No, I said it right. See, now I double guess myself.
Yeah, you did. You're good. You're good.
Hey, you know, right. This is what happens. At the Ref Says, at Zach Kyleman. You guys know the drill. Make sure you're following us. I'm 1 follower away from 1,000 on Twitter. If you guys, hey, one of you wants to follow me, I've been at 999. I went up to 1,001. Then it went to 999. Then it went to 1,000. Now it's back at 90. Just sign me up, guys. Follow me over there. And you can follow me along for the Ref's European vacation. We'll be dropping all sorts of things in the off season for All In London. But I think that's it, guys. So until next time, sign you up.